So in the end, he obviously didn't himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care. You had to make your own way here in your own plane, didn't you?
The Chris Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker.
Oh,
not Smokey.
Oh, Lord.
Where is Diddy any different than Epstein? Really? Where is it any different? What's the difference? Why is nobody paying attention to the fact that there were underage girls that were allegedly attached to Diddy as well? Unfortunately, one of them, Anna Kane, who was a as well.
Picture this. A comedian walks out onto one of Hollywood's most glamorous stages, looks straight into the eyes of the most powerful people in the entertainment industry, and essentially tells them he knows their secrets. That is exactly what Ricky Gervais did at the 2020 Golden Globe Awards. And for years, most people thought it was just brilliant boundary-pushing comedy. But then the you-know-what files dropped, and suddenly, nobody was laughing anymore. What Gervais said that night was not just a punchline. Looking back now, it reads more like a warning shot fired directly at an elite circle that had, for decades, operated with breathtaking impunity. He stood there, beer in hand, staring into a sea of nervous smiles and shifting eyes. And he said what many people in that room clearly did not want, said out loud. And the cameras caught every uncomfortable reaction. Now, in light of the extraordinary document releases that have followed, that Golden Globes moment has taken on an entirely new dimension. Today, we are going to break down exactly what happened, who has been named, what the files actually reveal, and why so many famous faces suddenly seem very difficult to find in public. Let us go back to January 6, 2020. The Beverly Hilton, the 77th Golden Globe Awards, Ricky Gervais hosting for his 5th and, as he repeatedly insisted, final time, took to the stage with the kind of energy that told everyone immediately this was not going to be a comfortable evening.
You could binge watch the entire first season of Afterlife instead of watching this show. That's a show about a man who wants to himself because his wife dies of cancer, and it's still more fun than this, okay? Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end, he obviously didn't himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care. You had to make your own way here in your own plane, didn't you?
The monologue was ruthless from the very first line. He mocked Hollywood's obsession with self-congratulation. He took aim at streaming giants. He jabbed at diversity, privilege, and the general disconnect between celebrity culture and ordinary life. But nothing landed quite like the moment he name-dropped Jeffrey Epstein. Comparing the notorious financier's suspicious death to his own show's plot twist, Gervais dropped the name into the room like a live grenade. The audience gasped and groaned, and then came the line that has since been replayed millions of times online. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care. He did not let it sit there gently either. He twisted the knife further, pointing out that unlike his fictional character, Epstein had not made it out alive, with the implication hanging thick in the perfectly conditioned Beverly Hills air. The cameras, as cameras always do, panned to the audience. What they captured was extraordinary. Nervous laughter, stiff smiles, faces that said far more than any scripted response ever could. Tom Hanks was caught looking visibly appalled. These were not the reactions of people who simply did not get the joke. These were the reactions of people who understood it completely. To understand why that moment was so significant, you have to understand who Ricky Gervais is, and more importantly, who he is not.
You are so brilliant, and you are so constantly making us aware of crossing the line in the most sort of brutal but sensitive way that you realize as a comedian there is no line.
There is no. I wouldn't say
there's no line.
No, it's like it depends on the joke. You know, it's funny because journalists say to me, "Is there anything you wouldn't joke about?" And I say, "Is there anything you wouldn't write about?" It depends, right. And I think that's where a lot of offence comes. People mistake the subject of a joke with the actual target, and they're not you know, they're not the same. You can joke about anything, but it depends what the joke is, and comedy comes from a good place. And I deal in taboo subjects because I do like that little, what's he going to say? And it's always okay, you know, because just because you're joking about something, it doesn't mean you're anti it or pro it. And I think that's the other thing. I think people think there's an angle, like a joke's a joke. We don't mean it. We're trying to make you laugh. It's a, you know, it's a play on words.
Position on.
I know, it's not a TED Talk. That's what
exactly. And I hate that when people think that. You know, a joke is the window to the comedian's true soul. I'll pretend to be left-wing, I'll pretend to be right-wing, I'll pretend to be clever, I'll pretend to be stupid, whatever makes the joke funnier. And most people know that, but it's like some people who, they want to be offended. They go, that's terrible, you shouldn't joke about that. I once tweeted a thing saying, what's the one thing you should never joke about? 1,000 different answers. And that was my set list.
And you one-handed tweet, which is very impressive.
Gervais is not a Hollywood insider. He is a British comedian, the creator of the original version of The Office for the BBC, a man who built his career on uncomfortable honesty, dry wit, and a genuine disdain for institutional hypocrisy. He does not need Hollywood's approval. He does not depend on its gatekeepers for his livelihood. And crucially, he has made a career-long philosophy out of saying precisely the things that powerful people would rather he kept quiet. When the Hollywood Foreign Press Association handed him that hosting slot, they probably hoped for provocative but manageable. What they got was something far sharper. Gervais spent his monologue treating the assembled A-listers not as gods to be worshipped, but as people with things to hide. His reference to journalist Ronan Farrow, the man who broke some of the most damning stories about Hollywood misconduct, was another tell. He pointed out that every major power player in that room was terrified of Farrow. The nervous laughter confirmed it.
Joins us now. Welcome, Ronan.
Good to be here.
In this statement from NBC, which I should say is 6 pages long.
Very detailed.
Yeah, NBC News President Noah Oppenheim says your book is, quote, built on a series of distortions, confused timelines, and outright inaccuracies.
Look, this book is an extraordinarily meticulously fact-checked work of investigative journalism. It's 2 years of reporting. One of the senior fact-checkers at The New Yorker checked it. I'll let the reporting in the book stand on its own. We're very confident in it, and it's been amazing to see how the press has rallied around it. I think people have seen it for what it is.
What have you heard from people inside NBC?
There has been an outpouring of support from journalists at this company and sources coming forward saying they too have stories. That's very common. All of this is honestly very common with these kinds of investigative stories. When I reported those stories about CBS that you just mentioned, similar campaign to undercut the reporting that revved up and similar support that ultimately carried the day.
Well, there was always two sides to every story. I'm really curious because Matt Lauer came out really with guns blazing, responding to you. It made it very clear from his point of view that it was certainly consensual and she was very willing. This really is a he said, she said story, Ronan, at the end of the day, the allegations about Matt Lauer. How do you decide who is telling the truth here?
So I think one of the transformations of recent years is that we've come to understand that actually, I come at this from a legal background, you can corroborate claims of violence. And Brooke Neville's claim has been found credible even by NBC News, which took the step of firing Matt Lauer. And same by me and by the fact checkers working on this. She describes an evening that matches up with a timeline given by others there. There were eyewitnesses to what happened before and after that moment. She described this event consistently over the years. And look, it's telling that NBC News paid her a 7-figure settlement to ensure that she can't talk about what the network knew about this.
Well, I want to stop you about your fact-checking process because Matt Lauer's lawyer says many allegations that are being circulated were never raised during any fact-checking process. And despite repeated requests for an advance copy of the book, have not been provided to me. Did you have a conversation? Did you talk to Matt at any time?
Look, very often, without talking about Matt Lauer specifically, as you know, in our profession, people will fact check or have conversations and give you the responses in an off-the-record capacity or under some other ground rule that prevents me from answering a question directly like that. However, I will say that every single individual where there's a serious allegation against them described in this book had an ample, fair window to fact check. And with respect to Matt Lauer specifically, when you read the book, it's very clear this section is fair and even generous to him, and his thinking is reflected in detail. So there was nothing surprising in that letter except, obviously, as many survivors have commented on, the tone, which was very angry and had some menace in it. was surprising to some people.
One of the major discrepancies between what NBC is saying and what you're reporting is the question of agreements prior to Matt Lauer's firing, apparently involving women, apparently involving misbehavior. NBC says this morning that those were completely routine, not related to What makes you say otherwise?
Tony, they had a euphemism at this company called enhanced severance. And we talked to multiple people involved in each of those transactions, including senior executives on the NBC side who were involved in them, who said these were explicitly arrangements to shut up women with allegations of misconduct within this company. And that's something we saw at CBS. We've seen in other media companies. And it's a practice that correctly is being called into question by journalists.
They say in the statement enhanced severance was routine and was paid out to hundreds, if not thousands of people.
And what we document in this book is that these settlements were an elevated amount that was atypical. And look, we fully include in the book their claim that it is coincidental that these women had complaints about Matt Lauer and about others, including executives there. The people involved say something else.
The bulk of the book, though, is about your efforts to tell the Harvey Weinstein story and working. It's very ironic that the Black Cube people that were following you, allegedly at Harvey's request, end up reaching out to you because they wanted to talk to you about how they felt about the job they were doing. But the bulk of the book is about your efforts to tell the Harvey Weinstein story, and in the end, NBC killed the story because they said you did not have enough facts that didn't reach their level of journalism. How do we know that this is not just, they're saying it's an axe to grind on your part?
So the book is, as I said, fair and even generous to them. At every turn, there was a very extensive fact-checking process to make sure every one of their rebuttals is in there.
Because the Harvey story didn't run on NBC, ultimately took it to
the New Yorker, and
it wasn't renewed.
Obviously the producer who worked on that story at a working level put out a piece in the last few days corroborating that, saying we were ordered to stop, and that is the point, Gail. There are untruths being put out by NBC. There's lies in that statement that wouldn't fact-check. They admitted to us they never fact-checked any of these memos that you referred to, rebutting this. They are concealing the fact that they actively ordered us to stop.
What set Gervais apart that night was not just the jokes themselves, but the courage behind them. He had no publicist in that room managing his image, no film to promote, no studio deal to protect. He was, by his own admission, done hosting. That freedom let him say things nobody else on that stage would have dared. For years, documents related to Jeffrey Epstein's activities were either sealed, heavily redacted, or contested in courts. Then came a slow but seismic series of releases that changed everything. The first significant phase came in February 2025, when Attorney General Pamela Bondi announced the release of what she described as an initial tranche of declassified documents. The files included flight logs from Epstein's private aircraft, an extensive contact book, an evidence list, and other materials that had previously been withheld from the public. Bondi stated at the time that the release represented a commitment to transparency and accountability.
The Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
It's not surprising because I think she's been a terrible AG. I think what's surprising is that a core of her issue is that she has been politically loyal to him and not the rule of law. So what does surprise me is that again and again, she has desecrated this department. I served as a former federal prosecutor. As a part of the prosecutor, I was proud. I thought it was a patriotic job. And what she has done again and again is choose Trump over country. So for him to fire her and point to the Epstein files, that's actually her standing behind him. She's completely, she screwed the roll up of that, but it's not because she was trying to do the right thing. It's because again and again, she was trying to obstruct justice in rolling out the so-called client list that she said existed. She said it was going to be released. Now there's no list. In handling redactions and taking the amount of federal agents from doing things like counterterrorism, she put them on handling thousands of names, seeking President Trump's name and redacting him. So do I think he should fire her? Yes, but for the reasons that he's going to do it, absolutely not.
What followed was months of legal battles, political controversy, and public pressure. Then, in November 2025, the United States Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act. which President Trump signed into law on November 19th of that year. The act mandated the release of all relevant Department of Justice records. By February 2026, Bondi announced that all files had been released in accordance with the act, with no records withheld on the basis of embarrassment or reputational concerns. The documents that emerged paint a picture of a staggeringly well-connected individual who operated at the highest levels of global society. Flight logs recorded who traveled on his private aircraft. Contact books cataloged an astonishing network of powerful names. And while legal experts were careful to note that appearing in these records did not constitute proof of wrongdoing, the sheer breadth of the connections revealed was jaw-dropping. When Bondi released her letter to Congress alongside the final document drop in February 2026, it contained something truly remarkable. An alphabetical list of more than 300 high-profile individuals whose names appeared somewhere within the released materials.
So Donald Trump chose Pam Bondi to be his next Attorney General. How familiar are you with Pam Bondi? But before you answer that, answer me this question. How many of you knew that Matt Gaetz wouldn't be able to fill those Attorney General shoes? I'll wait. Knowing about the allegations, knowing about the scandals, I think even Matt knew he wouldn't pan out. And after that meeting with the senators, he decided to step down when he figured out who was with him and who wasn't with him. But now let's get to who Miss Pam Bondi is. The first woman Attorney General, the first woman Chief of Staff. Let's talk about her. Over the last 4 years, Miss Pam Bondi has been in war with the media, and she held her own. She's known for being against all the scandals. She's known for being against the deep state. She's also a Trump impeachment attorney. Needless to say, she is a strong and intelligent woman. But now let me ask you, do you think that she's qualified for the position? Now, aside from the controversy where they're saying that she took a $25,000 donation from Trump in 2013, her track record is squeaky clean. Honestly, her resume speaks volumes.
The critical caveat, one that must be repeated clearly, is that appearing on this list did not mean a person had done anything wrong. Some names were there because Epstein had kept files or articles about powerful people. Others appeared in his famous Black Book of Contacts. Some were mentioned in correspondence or testimony entirely unrelated to any personal connection. As one legal framework made clear, the list comprised people classified as government officials, politically exposed persons, or public figures whose names were referenced in the documents at least once. That said, the range of names was staggering. From presidents and former presidents to royalty, from globally recognized musicians and actors to business leaders and financiers. The list included names from across the entire political spectrum, making it impossible to weaponize as a purely partisan issue. Republicans, Democrats, foreign dignitaries, and entertainment royalty alike appeared in the documents. Names such as Naomi Campbell, Alec Baldwin, Mick Jagger, George Clooney, Beyoncé, and Bruce Springsteen were among those cited, alongside countless political figures. Prince Andrew had already faced significant consequences long before these latest releases. Kathy Rumler, top lawyer at Goldman Sachs, resigned following scrutiny of her past communications with Epstein. The ripple effects were very real and very far-reaching.
One of the most powerful people in the Epstein files is somebody you may not have heard of. Her name is Kathy Rumler, and she is one of the people who communicated with Jeffrey Epstein the most, according to emails released last month from Epstein's estate by House investigators. She's a former White House counsel to Barack Obama, and now top lawyer at one of the world's most powerful banks, Goldman Sachs. Records show that before she joined the bank, they exchanged more than 100 emails, and Epstein's schedule lists them having more than 50 planned meetings between 2014 and 2019, long after he was a registered offender. Across the many messages, Rumler emerges as a confidant and friend to Epstein, and he turned to her for help for managing his public reputation after he was convicted of soliciting from a. In one 2019 message, for example, Epstein wrote that Rumler helped him craft a statement in response to a forthcoming Washington Post editorial that was calling on Congress to investigate him. He referred to it as the Rumler proposal. The statement defended Epstein and denied that he ever received a sweetheart deal. "This is what Kathy suggests we tell Washington Post," Epstein said. While Rumler told CNN that she did not represent Epstein and was not compensated by him, she did not directly answer whether she ever crafted PR statements for him or advised him on media strategy. Rumler said she had no knowledge of any new or ongoing unlawful activity by Epstein. In an email to Epstein in June 2018, Rumler dismissed a Daily Beast story about allegations against him, describing it as a, quote, novella of rehashed crap. Now, Rumler told CNN she was referring to the article, not the allegations against Epstein, and said, "I have deep sympathy for anyone victimized by Epstein, and as I have said many times, I regret ever knowing him." But at the time, Rumler's correspondence with Epstein often appeared to go beyond professional matters. They gossiped about current events, arranged celebrity lunches and dinners. Epstein even appears to have coordinated some of her personal beauty appointments. In her statement to CNN, Rumler referred to Epstein as a business referral source and said she knew him in a, quote, professional capacity when she worked in private practice. Rumler told CNN, "I did not travel with him, go out to dinner with him, or spend time with him one-on-one, except in a professional setting. As has been well established, Epstein's calendars and schedules often do not reflect reality." What's so interesting about Rumler is that unlike other Epstein associates like Larry Summers or Prince Andrew, who have paid a steep price for their association with Epstein, Rumler has managed to fly under the radar. She remains at Goldman Sachs, which so far has chosen to stand by her.
Here is where things get genuinely fascinating. When a scandal of this magnitude breaks, the public typically expects at least some celebrities to step forward, issue statements, and clarify their positions. What happened instead was something far more telling, an almost universal silence from some of the biggest names on the planet. Some figures did offer responses. Bill Clinton, whose connections to Epstein had long been a matter of public discussion, issued a statement through his office. But for the vast majority of those named, especially in the entertainment world, the response was nothing. A vacuum. Lawyers may have been working overtime behind the scenes, but microphones were conspicuously abandoned.
When you first started giving money away, the bulk of that has gone to the Bill Gates Foundation. What have you thought about all the emails in the Epstein files related to Bill Gates?
Well, I won't say what I thought about them, particularly related to Bill Gates, but I would say it's astounding me how human people are. I mean, here you had a guy that was a convicted guy, a sensational con man, and the percentage of people that he knocked off, I mean, whether it was, he found their weakness. It might be power, it might be whatever it might be. And I don't see how anybody could have pulled that off. And of course, all these figures think that it's going, when he dies, that they basically lied about it before, but I mean,
Lied about their associations with Epstein, you mean?
Well, I mean, they've rationalized it one way or another, and now it's all getting opened up, and of course, I'm so happy the guy didn't stop in Omaha ever. I mean, or that I didn't live in New York. If I'd lived in New York, at some party I would have been at some damn thing. And where people always are asking to take a picture, and I usually do. I'm so used to doing it with students, I always do these gag pictures where I'm picking some guy's pocket or proposing to some woman or some damn thing. And I thank heavens I never came near the guy, and I had read the article in Vanity Fair in 2003.
The one that laid out what a mysterious and strange figure he was.
It went as far as somebody who's worried about libel suits goes.
Well, it made him sound like a fraud for sure.
Yeah,
I've read that article recently at your suggestion.
And the interesting thing is, he got to start at Bear Stearns, and they knew him. They knew he lied to them on all kinds of things, and Ace Greenberg was a good friend of mine. Well, Jimmy King may have been actually running the firm by then, I'm not sure. But Ace Greenberg always was looking for, he had a guy that, the son of a friend of mine, that he hired just to be his ferret. And his job was to look for anything that was old or large that traders might have stuck in their desk. Or, I mean, he was worried about people. But somehow, Ace's daughter, I guess, was dating Epstein or something. And that guy must have been the con man of all time.
But it's one thing to be a con man. It's another thing to be trafficking.
Absolutely. And being prosecuted. And even though he managed to jiggle his way through that thing with, you know, whoever the Attorney General was then, that one way or another, he did not really spend much time in his cell, you know, but he had a way of conning everybody. I mean, he probably, who knows what he offered the guys.
This silence became its own story. In an era where celebrities routinely take to social media to comment on everything from political elections to restaurant recommendations, the sudden collective lockdown was impossible not to notice. The same people who had spent years carefully managing their public personas through carefully curated posts and polished press releases were nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, old footage resurged online with devastating timing. Video of people in that Golden Globes audience laughing uncomfortably as Gervais made his jokes began circulating alongside the newly released documents. The juxtaposition was stark. What had looked like an awkward reaction to a dark joke in 2020 now looked, to many viewers, like something far more loaded. It is worth stressing again. Awkward laughter at a celebrity event is not evidence of guilt, but optics, as any publicist will tell you, matter enormously. What the you-know-what files story ultimately raises is a set of questions that go far beyond any individual name on any particular list. It forces a reckoning with how power operates in elite circles, how accountability is applied inconsistently, depending on who you know and how much you are worth, and why it took so long for so many of these documents to see daylight. Consider the timeline. Epstein was first arrested in 2006. He served a notably lenient sentence negotiated through a plea deal that many legal observers criticized sharply at the time. He was re-arrested in 2019 and died in custody that August, under circumstances that remain the subject of enormous public skepticism, despite official rulings. It then took until 2025 for a meaningful phase of document releases to begin, and until 2026 for a full release to be announced. That is nearly 20 years from his first arrest to the public being given any comprehensive picture of his network.
What do you make of where the royal family are now, in particular, obviously, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor? I mean, it's not just a fall from grace, it's an absolute catapulting into a very nefarious form of oblivion.
Well, you're quite right, and I think he's brought great shame on the British royal family. Unfortunately, the big question is who knew what?
Yeah.
Who in the palace, who for many, many years. I'm told in 2011 there was a crisis team set up after some of the disclosures made by the Mail on Sunday. Somebody have known now for 15 years what on earth was going on, and unfortunately people have to ask that question because this is a criminal inquiry. Yeah. Unlike in the past where the Met, I argue, have not investigated a variety of different offences over the years. I don't think they've got any option now, and if they don't, then serious questions will be asking of them and other police forces if they don't get a grip of this.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick faced bipartisan calls to explain communications, showing he had once considered visiting Epstein's private island, though the trip never took place. The political fallout cut across party lines in ways that made the story resistant to simple narrative framing.
He opens the door, and there's a massage table in the middle of the room. And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me. And he says, and the right kind of massage. Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me And I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross. And so I look back at it as a gift.
Yes.
He gave me a gift.
Yes.
Of avoid. And so, yeah, that's my story. A one and absolutely done.
Ricky Gervais, who stood on a stage in 2020 and looked into the eyes of that crowd, perhaps understood something that many of us were only beginning to sense, that the connections between fame, power, and impunity were far deeper and far older than anyone in positions of authority was comfortable admitting. There is a long tradition of comedians being the only ones brave enough to say the thing everyone else is thinking. Court jesters historically held a unique license to speak uncomfortable truths to kings. Satirists throughout history have exposed corruption that journalists could not touch. And sometimes, a comedian with nothing to lose and a microphone in his hand becomes the unlikely voice of accountability. Ricky Gervais did not claim to have secret information. He did not present himself as a whistleblower or an investigator. He simply made a joke. But in doing so, he pointed a spotlight at something that vast resources had been spent keeping in the shadows. The joke worked precisely because enough people in that room knew it was not entirely a joke.
I punch up, I have a go at people like, I don't know, Stephen Hawking, right? Yes, the greatest brain that's ever lived. He can take it. And he wouldn't even have minded when he was alive because he's part robot, isn't he? I think he's basically a talking chair, so you can say what you want, and he was on Epstein's island, apparently, so I don't... What was he doing there? Why do I want to go... Why? Why do I? Just there, doing... I would go, what? I know who'd kill for a ticket to that, and he's just taking up a space. It's probably DEI or something, and they go, we need one. Like, I'll go, what are you doing here, Steve? He go, I'm thinking we're off.
In the aftermath of the document releases, his 2020 monologue went viral again and again across social media platforms. Millions of new views, clips shared across every possible platform, people watching the audience reactions in slow motion, trying to read every micro expression, every uncomfortable shift in posture. What Gervais demonstrated, whether intentionally or not, is that comedy can function as a form of public accountability when other mechanisms fail. It is harder to threaten a comedian with legal action for a joke than it is to threaten a journalist for a report. It is harder to suppress a punchline than a document. And sometimes, the most powerful thing a person can say in a room full of secrets is a sentence that makes everyone laugh just a little too nervously. So here we are. Decades of connections, years of court battles, thousands of pages of documents, and a comedian from England who may have told us what we needed to hear before most of us were ready to listen.
Redacted, unredacted that they want, and so I think that to the extent that the Epstein files was a part of the past year of this Justice Department, it should not be a part of anything going forward.
Okay, well, I mean, you've combed through these files, right? Who was Epstein spying for?
Look, I don't know that he was spying for anybody. Nobody's ever said that.
No? You don't think he might have been a spy for a foreign country?
I have no idea if he was a spy. All I know is that we don't have any evidence in the Epstein files that the FBI collected over 15 years that suggests that, Jesse. I don't know. I wasn't part of the original prosecution team, neither was Attorney General Bondi. And I can tell you this, there's only one president that's held Mr. Epstein accountable, and that's Donald J. Trump. During his first administration, that was the administration that prosecuted him, and during this administration, it's the administration that's been totally transparent and released all the files. And no matter how much criticism people want to make about the Epstein files, that is indisputable. It's undisputable that nobody talked about the Epstein files for 4 years during Biden. 4 years. And so when President Trump said, let's release the Epstein files, and the law was passed that allowed us to legally do it, we did it.
The You Know What Files story is not over. The July 2025 Department of Justice memo concluded that no formal client list existed in the way many people had anticipated, and that no credible evidence of blackmail operations against prominent individuals had been uncovered. Critics on both sides of the political spectrum challenged that conclusion. Legal experts continued to debate what the documents do and do not prove, and the reputational consequences for those named continued to unfold in real time. What remains undeniable is that a vast network of powerful people orbited around Jeffrey Epstein for many years, that some of those people have faced consequences and others have not, and that the full truth, whatever it turns out to be, has not yet been told in any comprehensive or satisfying way. Ricky Gervais may have been making a joke, but the room's reaction told a different story entirely. And as more documents surface and more names emerge, one question keeps coming back. If a comedian could see it from a stage in 2020, why did it take everyone else so long? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on any new videos. And until then, fam, keep it real.